Mental health. A hot topic these days, right? Seems like left, right and centre people coming out with mental health diagnoses. The media sure thinks that it's over-diagnosis. A lot of people I talk to think that it's just a reflection of young people becoming less and less resilient.
Do not tell me when to say no!
Ask a mental health advocate and they may tell you really that it's none of these. That in fact it reflects years of under-diagnosis. So which is it? Are we over-diagnosing? Are we under-diagnosing? Are we accurately diagnosing? Let's take a look. I'm Hayden, I'm a psychologist here in Australia, and this is my channel, My Cartography. Let's start with the possibility of over-diagnosis. I'm not going to give you guys any true statistics on the rate of mental health in the community until the end of the video, because I want you guys to really form your own opinion based on the arguments that I'm going to present as to how you want to interpret those statistics, because there's many ways. When it comes to overdiagnosing, there's an argument that we are classifying everyday distress as a disorder, pathologizing normal human responses per se. Everyone feels down every now and then. Everyone has issues with anxiety at some point in their life. Everyone has issues with attention every now and then. Does this mean that they have major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, or ADHD? No, of course not. And a well-practiced mental health practitioner wouldn't diagnose it as such either. But since the diagnostic process for mental health disorders is inherently subjective, there's always going to be the potential for diagnosing someone with disorder when they don't actually have one. Look, mental health professionals are fallible. We make mistakes. It's not always easy arriving at the accurate diagnosis, especially when a lot of the symptoms overlap between them. For example, poor sleep is listed in major depressive disorder, but also generalized anxiety disorder, PTSD, and various sleep disorders, of course. Social withdrawal could be another symptom of major depressive disorder, but it also is listed in social anxiety disorder, autism spectrum disorder, and schizoid personality disorder. The same symptom could also be a sign of physical, neurological, and medication effects. Mental health is complex. The same disorder can present in different ways, be expressed in different ways, be caused by different factors, and respond to treatment in different ways. It's hard to be certain on every occasion that we have the right diagnosis. Nonetheless, the rate at which clinicians agree on the diagnosis that's made is generally pretty good. Not perfect, but pretty good. So we can't really say that clinicians are more likely to overdiagnose now than they did in the past. What we can say though, is it seems to be more likely that patients tend to overstate their symptoms more now than they did in the past. Research suggests that although patients have gotten better at recognizing mental illness, they may have gotten worse at detecting the absence of it. It's like casting a wide net. You'll catch a lot of the fish that you want, but you'll catch plenty of the fish that you don't want to. With more awareness and understanding of mental health, people are taking on a broader idea of what it means to be mentally unwell, and with it, a higher chance of inaccurately self-diagnosing. Such self-diagnosing then carries the very real risk of enabling a self-fulfilling prophecy. Once someone believes they have a diagnosis, they may then start acting in ways that fit with that diagnosis. Take this example. John Doe mistakes his social awkwardness for social anxiety disorder. He starts to avoid parties because he believes that they'll trigger his social anxiety. People start to notice why he's not there and they stop inviting him to these parties. He then picks up on that and wonders why people aren't inviting him. He starts to worry, goes into a spiral, leading to more avoidance of social occasions, and his anxiety really starts to take over. In many ways, John Doe made the diagnosis actually legit. And if he went to a psychologist at this point, he'd sure probably meet diagnostic criteria. This is why self-diagnosing can be very harmful. So that's one possibility. What about the idea that there is no over-diagnosing or under-diagnosing, that we are in fact witnessing a significant increase in mental illness in the population? People just aren't as well as they used to be. Well, let's see. To break this hypothesis down, we need to look at factors that have clearly changed across time, with a clear distinction between past and present conditions. Without doing this, it's hard to really establish the possibility of a cause and effect relationship. So we can't pinpoint down that that's the reason, that 9/11's the reason, that COVID's the reason that people are more unwell these days. When I think of the big difference between now and the past, social media immediately comes to mind. It's no secret social media has taken over our lives. Heck, I'm on social media. And I watch a lot of it, by the way. But you know, social media is great though. It allows us to connect with different people. It's done a lot for society, right? Yeah, it has. But it is also targeted as one of the main reasons for poor mental health, especially among young people. Data shows that the more time young people spend on social media platforms, the higher their chances of depression, anxiety, even suicide. So what is it about social media that makes it so harmful? Well, for one, it creates a space of intense need for validation and acceptance. Teens equating their self-worth as to whether or not they get enough views or likes. It can also make teens negatively compare themselves to their peers or the unrealistic personas of social media influencers. These platforms prey on attention, keeping kids hooked in and keeping them away from the outside world. And worst of all, they're hotspots for cyberbullying. Past cohorts at least had assurance that once the school day ended, their bullying would stop. These days, with 24 access to social media, people can get bullied every hour of the day. Stepping away from social media, I think changes in parenting style might have had an even greater effect on mental health. Our upbringing is pivotal to shaping who we are and how resilient we are as a person. In childhood, our brains are extremely adaptable. The more you hear the same lesson over and over and over again, the more it's going to get cemented in your brain and become part of your personality, your thinking and behaviour, the way you view the world, impacting how resilient you could be. Prior to the 1980s, many kids had a view that the world was safe and that nothing bad could happen to them. This was reinforced by their parents, who believed their kids were safe. Many kids grew up as latchkey kids. Essentially, they were given their own key, so that when they got home from school, they could let themselves in, take care of themselves by themselves until their parents came home. It's a lot of faith put in your kids. Starting in the 1980s though, stranger danger became a thing. News stations regularly broadcast incidents of child kidnappings. Children were warned about interacting with strangers, and parents became more attentive, responsive, and controlling, because they wanted to keep their kids safe. This is the rise of helicopter parenting. Helicopter parents are excessively involved in their child's life. They make all decisions for them, they preemptively intervene whenever their child faces difficulties, especially danger. They bubble up their child so they don't ever have to worry about anything. This sets in place a harmful message though. It says to the child that the world is unsafe. You're unfit to deal with it by yourself. If you try to go it alone, you'll fail. So of course these children don't develop any sense of resilience because they've been guarded from difficulty their whole life. We can also speculate that the 9/11 attacks and the global financial crisis of 2008, even COVID-19, had similar effects on a global level. Post 9/11, the world consciously believed that an attack could happen to anyone, anytime, anywhere. So you need to be on guard at all time. This unpredictability and sense of danger that could happen at a moment's notice is quite susceptible to anxiety. A third possible reason for the rise in mental illness ties in with sociocultural and environmental issues. We are living in a time of obscene wealth disparity. The wealthiest 1% own 43% of global assets. Inequality is on the rise and it's taking people's mental health with it. Living standards are also being stretched. There's many housing crises that are going on around the world, leaving many people out of touch with the dream of owning a home. Pollutants blacken the sky, and where there's more pollution, there's a greater risk of depression, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, personality disorders. Global warming has triggered massive climate change and caused extreme weather events all around the world. And where there's environmental catastrophe, there's trauma. Even stripping it back and just comparing modernized and non-modernized societies, we can see harmful mental health effects. Countries with a higher GDP tend to have higher levels of depression. Meanwhile, community living agrarian lifestyles like the Kaluli in New Guinea and the Thai Lao of Thailand rarely show any signs of depression. Even rural communities tend to have less psychiatric disorders than their urban counterparts. Researchers put a lot of these findings down to health-based factors such as sleep, diet, exercise, sunlight exposure, which are all very well associated with mental health. Others expand on the theory, suggesting that the reasons for poor urban mental health is because an urban lifestyle is far removed from the hunter-gatherer lifestyle that we were evolved into. They suggest that our symptoms arise because we're at a mismatch with our environment, that we haven't evolved enough mentally, socially, physically in our genes to suit an urban lifestyle. Lastly, I want to take a look at this idea that people aren't resilient enough anymore. We've talked about how it could be related to some helicopter parenting, but could it be that we're just not experiencing any more wars? We're in the long peace, after all. There's the saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, or what happens when you have nothing to kill you? Could this be the reason why we're not resilient anymore? Well, I don't think so. Yes, war gives us a lot of stress that can potentially make us more resilient, but also at the same time, there are many different stresses that we engage in our daily life. Just look at everything we've gone through so far, and stress is relative. Furthermore, there isn't actually any evidence to suggest that people are more resilient after going through a war. In one study, they looked at the health of 561 individuals that had indirectly experienced a set of terror attacks. They measured their resilience months prior to the attack, a little bit after the attack, and then 6 months after the attack. What they saw was there was no change in their overall resilience levels. The attacks did not change how resilient they were. Finally, let's take a look at the under-diagnosis angle. The idea that mental illness has always been this high, we just haven't been able to recognize it. The main evidence in support of this is that we know people don't always seek treatment when they need it. The major reason for that is stigma. Surprise, surprise. People have been terrified to seek out help because it might expose them to judgment, shame, humiliation, rejection, ostracization. Just look at the LGBTQ+ community. Even nowadays, a lot of them fear coming out for the rejection that it might have. From another angle, the rise in mental health disorders could also be as a result of increased understanding on a clinical, individual, societal level of what each significant psychiatric disorder looks like across diverse populations. For many years, people with autism have been labelled as odd or weird because the way that they interact with the world doesn't necessarily fit with society's expectations. As autism awareness has increased though, many people with ASD are recognising that they're not odd, they're just autistic. Getting that validation of that diagnosis is just what they needed. Furthermore, the scientific field has come to realise that the ways in which autism presents in men and women is starkly different. Girls tend to be better at masking their symptoms of autism, and their hyper-focused interests tend to be more aligned with neurotypical interests like celebrities and popular music, whilst boys tend to have more stereotypical interests in planes and trains. These same points can be made for ADHD, which has also been similarly underdiagnosed in women. We have come a long way though when it comes to mental health awareness. More and more it's being accepted. Even celebrities are being open about their mental health struggles. People just don't seem to fear the stigma as much anymore. It's great. And this is reflected in the numbers. In Australia, the rate of people with mental health disorders seeking out treatment has increased from 35% in 2007 to 45%. People are also more able to access mental health treatment these days. With the rise of telehealth, people can access it from their own home. Rebates like the Better Access scheme have helped cover the cost of therapy, and online treatment programs such as This Way Up have helped in reducing the burden on in-person psychology services. Hopefully these two separate arguments paint a picture that there might be more people out there with mental health issues than you realise. Okay, let's bring in statistics now. What do the stats say? Many studies have suggested that there is, in fact, a cross-country increase in mental health problems. One study I find most interesting is this one that compares students in 1938 to 2007. Students in 2007 were found to be 6 to 8 times more likely to have clinical depression than those in 1938. Another study showed that the rate of major depressive disorder increased from 3% in 1991 to 7% in 2001. Epidemiological findings show a similar picture, albeit with a few nuances. Using data from the Australian Bureau of Statistics, we can see that between 2007 and 2022, there was an increase in the rate of mental health disorders from 20% to 21.5%, a very slight increase. Change in mood and anxiety disorders was more pronounced though, increasing from 6.2% and 14.4% in 2007 to 7.5% and 17.2% respectively. However, substance use disorders saw a 2% reduction. Where we see the biggest change in mental health is in the youth population. Between these two timeframes, mental health disorders in young people increased by almost 50%. Meanwhile, when we look broadly at the whole population and the question of whether or not they had experienced a mental health disorder at any time in their life, doesn't have to be currently active, we actually see a decrease in numbers. 45% reported a lifetime disorder in 2007, whilst 42.9% reported in 2022. Make of that what you will. Make of all of this of what you will. I've given you 3 different ways of interpreting these statistics. Make up your own mind as to what you think is going on here. Critical thinking is important when we look at mental health, because if we blindly accept what our friends tell us, what the media tells us, what our government tells us, what the world tells us, we might miss the point of what is actually truly going on here. Take this quote from author-journalist Christopher Hitchin. The essence of the independent mind lies not in what it thinks, but how it thinks. And that's a wrap for another mind cartography video. Let me know in the comments how you interpret the statistics and if you have any other ideas as to what may be going on and explaining the mental health rates. As always, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe along if you're keen for more mental health based content, and I'll see you in the next video.